The old pickup truck rattled down the long driveway until it reached the clearing where the farmhouse stood. It's proud and imposing. Boone Whitmore adjusted the rearview mirror, admiring the beautiful country property he had just bought. It was secluded, boasting an impressive facade with white paint peeling from its gables and sturdy wooden shutters covering windows that glittered like watchful eyes. His gaze lingered on the overgrown front yard, the wild weeds adding a touch of untamed beauty to the scene. As he killed the engine, the heavy silence seemed to amplify the sounds of the crickets and distant birds, creating a symphony of the countryside. A sense of solitude, both peaceful and unnerving, settled over him, which was unusual since the real estate agent had mentioned someone usually staying on the property. He stepped out of the truck, stretching his arms above his head, feeling the warm sun on his face. A sense of ownership swelled within him. This place now belonged to him. As he walked towards the house, he couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The farmhouse seemed to hold secrets, stories whispered through the gaps in its wooden walls. Approaching the front door, Boone paused. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. Then, with a hand that was both hesitant and firm, he knocked. But when the door swung open, he wasn't prepared for what he saw. Standing before him were 3 pairs of eyes, each reflecting the light streaming through the doorway. The first woman, the tallest, had hair the color of burnished copper cascading down her shoulders. Her piercing blue eyes seemed to bore into him, assessing, judging. Her lips, painted a shocking red, were parted slightly, as if inviting him in, or maybe warning him to stay away. She was tall and lean, her muscles evident beneath her simple cotton dress. Behind her, 2 other women stood, their faces partially hidden in the shadows. They were equally imposing, their gazes unwavering. The tallest of the 3 stepped aside, gesturing with her chin towards the interior of the house. "Well," she said, her voice a husky alto, "I guess this is it then." Her eyes never left his. "This is the new place." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Boone felt a sudden surge of anxiety. He had expected an empty house, not a confrontation. His throat went dry. Yes," he stammered, unsure how to proceed. "I'm here about the house." The woman's lips curved into a humorless smile. "About the house," she echoed, her eyes glinting with amusement. "What about it?" I bought it," Boone said, feeling the heat of embarrassment creep up his neck. A low, throaty laugh rumbled from the tallest woman. "Bought it," she repeated, as if savoring the word. "So they told you, did they? So you'd come here ready to start fresh, put your own stamp on things." She stepped closer, her gaze boring into his. "They didn't tell you, did they?" she continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "About us." Her words hit him like a physical blow, stealing the breath from his lungs.
Us.
He echoed, confused. The woman's smile turned predatory. "Us," she said again, nodding towards the 2 women behind her. "We're part of the package, so to speak." Before Boone could respond, the woman in the middle stepped forward. She was shorter than the first, with hair as black as night pulled back tight from her face. Her eyes were a startling emerald green, sharp and intense. "Don't mind her," the second woman said, her voice surprisingly gentle. "She has a flair for the dramatic." The third woman, the one in the shadows, remained silent, her face still partially hidden. But something in her posture, the way she held herself, hinted at a quiet strength. Boone felt a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. I don't understand," he managed to say, his voice betraying his growing alarm. "I bought the house," he said, gesturing vaguely with his hands. "I thought it was just the house." The first woman let out another humorless laugh. "Oh no, darling," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "The house comes with us. Always has. Always will." Words struck him like a physical blow, stealing the breath from his lungs. Confused and frightened, Boone found himself trapped in a terrifying game of cat and mouse. The 3 enigmatic women were the unexpected players, and he was left to decipher their cryptic words and intentions. What did they mean by always has, always will? What was their connection to the house and to him? The tall woman with eyes like chips of ice continued, her gaze unwavering. "We've been here a while," she said, "long enough to make this house our home, our sanctuary." Her eyes seemed to pierce through Boone's facade, seeing right through him. "And we have no intention of leaving." Their words hung in the air, heavy with challenge and veiled threats. Boone felt a cold dread creeping up his spine. These women, with their piercing gazes and cryptic words, were a mystery he hadn't bargained for. Their presence in the house he'd so eagerly bought was an unwelcome surprise, a puzzle he desperately needed to solve. Trying to regain his composure, Boone forced himself to meet the tall woman's gaze. I bought the house," he said, his voice echoing in the oppressive silence. "Surely you can't deny me that?" The tall woman tilted her head, considering him as if he were an insect under her scrutiny. "Oh, we won't deny you that, darling," she purred, a dangerous lilt in her voice. "But the house, as we've already pointed out, comes with certain perks, certain inhabitants." Her eyes glinted with amusement. "And we are those inhabitants." Her words were a venomous reminder of his helplessness. He was a trespasser in their domain, and they had made that abundantly clear. Trying to inject some much-needed levity into the situation, Boone forced a chuckle. "I see," he said, attempting a casual tone. "So you're, housemates? I didn't realize." The second woman, the one with the gentle voice, sighed. "Housemates." She echoed, a hint of bitterness in her tone. "That's one way to put it." There was a moment of silence, the tension in the room thickening like a physical presence. Finally, the woman in the shadows stepped forward. Her face, framed by her dark hair, was now visible, pale and beautiful, with eyes that shone like pools of liquid gold. "Look," she said softly, but her voice carried an undeniable authority. "We don't want any trouble. All we ask is that you respect our boundaries." She paused, gauging his reaction. "We'll share the house, share the expenses. You won't even know we're here most of the time. We keep to ourselves." Her offer, though seemingly reasonable, reeked of a veiled threat. To refuse would be to invite confrontation, and Boone knew it. He was outgunned, outnumbered, and frankly outfoxed. Still, he couldn't shake off the nagging questions. Who were these women? Why did the real estate agent fail to mention them? And what exactly did they mean by "we have no intention of leaving"? With a resigned sigh, Boone finally spoke, knowing full well that his life was about to take an unexpected turn.
"All right,"
he said. "Let's talk about this. But first, I'm going to need some introductions. Call me Boone." The tall woman with icy blue eyes stepped forward, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. "I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to learn about us, Boone," she said, her voice a silken purr. "After all, we're here to stay." And as the women closed in on him, their shadows enveloping him, Boone couldn't help but feel like he was walking into a trap. The farmhouse, once a symbol of his dreams, now loomed over him like a fortress, hiding its secrets close to its weathered chest. His story had taken an abrupt turn, and he had a feeling that his life, his very existence, now revolved around these three enigmatic women. But why? What did they want from him?
"Oh,
And more importantly, how could he hope to navigate this treacherous new reality? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the yard, Boone found himself ensnared in a web of mystery, power, and undeniable allure. He was in too deep now, and there was no turning back. The next day dawned bright and clear, promising a perfect country day. But inside the farmhouse, the atmosphere was anything but idyllic. Over breakfast, a tense silence hung between Boone and the three women. The tall one, who introduced herself as Mara, poured a steaming mug of coffee for him. Her touch, when their fingers brushed, sent a jolt of electricity through him. "Tell us, Boone," Mara said, her voice smooth as honey. "Why did you buy the farmhouse? What brings a city slicker like you to our humble abode?" Boone, taken aback by her directness, hesitated. I wanted a change of pace," he finally said. "A simpler life. I saw the house, and I fell in love with it." Mara's eyes glinted with amusement. "Ah, the house," she said, as if sharing a private joke. "Always the house, never us." Her words were laced with a world-weariness that tugged at his heartstrings. Something in her tone, in her eyes, hinted at a shared pain, a collective sorrow that bound them together. He turned to the second woman, the one with the gentle voice. "What do you do around here?" he asked, hoping to lighten the mood. "Everything and nothing," she replied cryptically. "It depends on the day." The third woman, whose name he learned was Lyra, remained silent, her gaze fixed on some distant point beyond the window. Over the next few days, Boone began to piece together the puzzle that was his new reality. He learned that the women had lived in the farmhouse for years, sharing not just the house, but a profound bond forged in the fires of adversity. It was Mara who revealed their history, or what she was willing to reveal. They had come to the farmhouse as young women, escaping a past that was best left buried. The farmhouse, with its peeling paint and sturdy bones, had become their sanctuary. Then came Marcus, the previous owner, a charming, charismatic man who had swept into their lives like a whirlwind. He had promised them partnership, a life of luxury and freedom. But as often happens, promises are like whispers in the wind, easily forgotten. Marcus had betrayed them, using their hard-earned money and their sweat to renovate the farmhouse, claiming it as his own. When he died unexpectedly, leaving no will, the house had passed to his brother, who, unaware of the women's presence, had sold it to Boone. As Boone listened to their story, he saw not just 3 imposing women, but 3 strong, resilient survivors who had endured more than their share of hardships. Their strength, their vulnerability, their quiet dignity, it all came together in a heartbreaking mosaic of human resilience. One evening, as the sky blazed with hues of orange and purple, Boone found himself sitting on the porch steps with Mara. They were sharing a bottle of wine, the silence between them comfortable rather than awkward. "Do you regret it?" Mara asked suddenly, her gaze fixed on the distant hills. "Regret what?" Boone asked, turning to her. "Letting Marcus in," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "We all did. And now look where it's got us." Words echoed the turmoil in his own heart. Was he, too, making the same mistake, letting someone in, believing promises that might just be empty words? As the stars began to pepper the darkening sky, Boone felt a surge of determination. He reached out to Mara, his hand hovering over hers. "I won't promise you the world," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "But I promise you this, I won't hurt you. And if you let me in, I'll try to make things right." His words hung in the air, a tentative bridge between their 2 worlds. And as the first stars twinkled above them, Boone knew that his journey had just begun.